So today's video is all about conducting a financial health check. Now, whether you are in a good place with your finances or you're not in the best of places, I think a financial health check is something that everybody should be doing at some point. So for me personally, I probably do a financial health check probably once a month actually, which may be a bit overkill, but it definitely doesn't hurt to know where you're at completely with your finances at least every 6 months. So today I'm going to take you through 8 steps that I personally do in order to check all of my finances and to make sure everything's going as it should be, moving in the right direction, and I'm getting closer to achieving my financial goals. So if you've never actually done a financial health check of your own, then there is no time like the present, because unless you know where you stand, it's very hard to figure out what you need to do in order to get to where you want to get to. So let's start with step number 1. And step number 1 is debt. So of course, if you don't have debt, then you're lucky enough to move on. But if you are like the majority of people and do have debt, then this is the place to start because it's the thing that needs to be gotten rid of. So when I'm talking about debt, I'm mainly talking about things such as credit cards or personal loans. If you're only making minimum payments towards your credit card, think about ways that you can increase those minimum payments. So, of course, it's tempting to only make the minimum payments when you see that you only need to pay maybe 25 or 50 pounds per month. But what you're doing is you're keeping yourself in that cycle of debt for much longer than you need to. Now, another thing about credit cards or loans or any kind of debt that you have, it's good to know when you have an end date. What date are you working towards becoming debt-free? Money Supermarket have a credit card calculator, which is super handy. So if you want to know how long it will take you to pay something off, then you would enter your outstanding balance. So let's say £2,000 and your APR. So let's say something like 18.9%. So if we pay £50 per month, how much would it cost? So by paying £50 per month, you would pay off that credit card by September 2026, which is 5 years away. And you would pay a cost of £1,017 in interest. But if we wanted to play around, we could say, what if I paid off £100 a month? That now goes from being paid off by September 2026 to August 2023. And the interest is now £380. So that's dropped from 1,000 to 380. But what if I increase that even more to £150 per month? Now we're looking at just over a year away at £239 of interest. So as you can see, it's just a handy calculator for you to get an idea of how much you need to pay per month in order to get that balance to zero as quickly as possible. So once we've handled debt, let's move on to step 2, which is savings. So as you probably know by now, if you've been on my channel for a while, preferably you should have an emergency fund of about 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses. So hopefully you know how much you're spending every month, times that by 3 or times that by 6, and that tells you how much you need in your savings account. Also, when it comes to savings, think about where you're putting your savings. So with an emergency fund, it's recommended to have your money in a place that's easy to access. So that may be a savings account that you can easily access, or even something like premium bonds. I've done a video about premium bonds if you want to check that out. That's personally where I have my emergency funds, but I'm also considering having some emergency funds in an easy access savers account. But obviously right now with savings accounts, you're not getting much interest on them. So I'm waiting until I can find a high interest savings account to put some money in there as well. So it's something for you to consider. Once you have your savings, where are you going to put them? Because you probably don't want them in a place where you can see your regular bank account because you may be tempted to spend it. It would be good to have them somewhere separate so it's not constantly in your face. And step 3 is good old pensions. So for pension, if you are somebody who's opted out of your workplace pension and you're not putting money aside into another pension, I'm not sure what you're doing. Unfortunately, a magic pot of money is probably not going to appear, so you need to make sure that you're putting money aside every single month into your pension. You can easily do this through your employer and make your contribution, and hopefully your employer will match you or even pay more into your pension. I also have a video about pensions. Highly recommend, check it out if you haven't already. And when it comes to pensions, a lot of times we put money into them, but we don't know if what we're putting in is enough or too much. Well, probably not too much, but is it enough? And will it serve its purpose for what we need it to later on in life? So I've also done a video about how much we should technically be saving towards our pensions according to the experts. So if you haven't already, then do check it out. But one thing I will say about that video in advance is it's a bit of an eye-opener. Some people were quite shocked how much we need to save for our pension. And the thing is, the sooner you start, the easier it is. So if you haven't started yet, you're better to start today than waiting until tomorrow. Step 4 is investments. And the reason why this is important is because it's really crucial that you make sure you're doing something to hedge against inflation. So in simple terms, that just means that as the prices of goods and services go up over time, which they tend to do every single year, your money is also going up in line with inflation, if not more. And unfortunately, with savings accounts, that's not currently happening. So investing, long-term investing, is another approach that you can take to try and hedge against inflation. So when it comes to investments, maybe you've already started investing. How much do you have invested? Where are they? Do you have them tracked in maybe a spreadsheet or even a notepad and pen? It's good to just write it down and take inventory of where you're at. And if you haven't started investing, it's a good time to sit down and maybe get some financial literacy, read some books, speak to some professionals, do some research online to get a feel of investing, what it means, what the options are, how much it will cost you, etc. Just take your time, don't feel rushed, but make sure you do it, because if you don't take care of your money, nobody else will. Number 5 is to calculate your net worth. So personally for me, I do this on a monthly basis, which may seem a bit crazy, but basically I have a spreadsheet where I have all my assets and liabilities, and so I can calculate my net worth at the bottom, and it's very easily done. But essentially, your net worth is simply your assets minus your liabilities. So all the things that you own are your assets, whether that's cash in your savings, your investments, maybe even material goods that hold a certain value. Those types of things will be assets. And their liabilities will be things like loans and credit cards, and so essentially anything that you owe money on. Now, net worth is a bit of an arbitrary number. It doesn't necessarily paint a very clear or detailed picture, but for me, I think it just helps me to gauge where I'm at, and it's quite rewarding to see that go up every single month. So when you calculate your net worth, you may be in the negative, and if you are, don't panic. Lots of people are there. It's actually quite normal, but if you're in the negatives and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have a negative net worth, you're not the only one. Don't panic. But what you will see over time is that as you work towards your goals, you get rid of debt, you put more into your savings or investments, then over time, that negative number will slowly go into positive and it will continue to build up. So I just like it as a kind of reward mechanism, that every single month I'm seeing my net worth go up. And it's just a nice little reminder that what I'm doing is working. I'm going in the right direction and it's rewarding. Number 6 is checking your credit score. Now with this one, again, this is something that I do on a monthly basis, and I'm really glad that I do, because I'm currently facing an issue with my credit score that I just didn't foresee happening. And something that was kind of out of my control. So I'm dealing with that currently. And just as well, because if I didn't check my credit score every month, that would have been sitting on my report and it would have been left unaddressed. So checking your credit score is something good for you to do. You may not need to do it every single month, but at least every couple of months to make sure that everything is as it should be. Now, you don't have to pay any money in order to check your credit score. There are lots of free accounts. I actually have 3 different accounts that I use to check my credit score. So in the UK, we have 3 main credit agencies. We have Equifax, Experian and TransUnion. And so these are the places that basically hold all your information regarding your credit history And if you go to a lender, for instance, and you're trying to get a mortgage, the lender would go to one of those credit agencies to kind of get a report on you. Now, the reason why I use 3 different accounts is because each account that I use uses a different credit agency. So for instance, I use ClearScore, which uses Equifax's data in order to generate your score. And then I also use Totally Money, which uses TransUnion's data in order to generate your score. And then I also use Experian itself. They have their own website in order to get my Experian score. So 3 different scores, 3 different credit agencies. You have your pick. There's even more out there, but you don't need to pay any money in order to get access to your credit score. Number 7 is a fun step, and that is working on your financial goals. Now, don't fob this off as something that's not essential or important. It really is. Without the goals, you have no sense of direction. And, sometimes I think goals get a bit of a bad rep and people think, oh, they just sound a bit fluffy. But the reality is, if you don't have a goal, you don't know what you're working towards. You can't really put any tangible actions in place. So your financial goals are important. And all of the steps that I've talked about so far, debt, savings, investments, pensions, net worth, all of those categories, you can have goals. You can have goals in terms of how much debt you want to pay off and when you want to be debt free. You can have goals in terms of how much savings you want just for your emergency fund, or even savings towards a house or a car or a holiday. You may even have a goal for your credit score where you want to get a certain credit score before you try to apply for a mortgage. So again, goals are important. So this is a good point. Once you've gone through everything, you now know where you're at, so you can set goals of where you want to get to. And step number 8 is to align your budget with your goals. So you set your budget, and then once you have your budget, when you get paid, you tell your money exactly where it needs to go. You don't have to do much thinking because it's already done. And so you just put your money where you need to go. And of course, things change. And I'm in a time in my life right now where I can't invest as much as I wanted to because we have another goal that we're working towards, which I will reveal to you in the next couple of months. So what it has meant is that our investments have had to decrease in order to achieve another goal. And it's a temporary shift. It will go back to normal in the next couple of months. But until then, a shift has had to occur, and that shift has been reflected in our budget. And essentially, where our money is going is slightly different now than where our money was going maybe 2 or 3 months ago. So aligning your budget, keeping up to date with your budget really helps you to make sure that you are smashing those financial goals. Right, so that's probably quite a lengthy video, but I hope this has given you a bit of encouragement in order to conduct a financial health check. I think it's something that's important. I think it's something that really helps you move forward in your life. So, as always, leave me some comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video real soon.